Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Nammo sadanto suchedoye hulahuri samya samputoshe. Wu shang shen shen wei miao fa, bai qian wan jie nan zhao yu, wo jin jian wan de shou chi, yuan jie ru lai zhen shi yi. The unsurpassed, deep, profound, subtle, wonderful Dharma in hundreds of thousands of millions of eons is difficult to encounter. Now that I've come to receive and hold it within my sight and hearing, I vow to fathom the thus come one's true and actual meaning. Venerable Master, Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture tonight. We're going to be looking at the 10 Grounds chapter of the Flower Garland Sutra, the Avatamsaka Sutra. We're on the 6th ground, and we're going to start tonight by reciting the name of the sutra and the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And if anybody has a chance later, maybe we could ask Phil, who's sitting there looking like the perfect guy, to take those 4 bowing cushions back in the corner and add them to that row. Just make the long row. Yeah, if you don't mind. Thank you. And set them up. Welcome. Please be seated. Have a seat. So we are going to take the front of our sutra text here and chant the name of the sutra and the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Namo Dafang Guang Fo Huayan Ji 华严海会佛菩萨那，大方广佛华严经，华严海会佛菩萨那，大方广佛华严经。 华严海会佛菩萨那，大方广佛华严经，华严海会佛菩萨那，摩大方佛华严经，华严海佛菩萨那，大方广佛华严经，华严海会佛菩萨那，摩大方广佛华严经，华严海会佛菩萨。Welcome to the people who are joining us online, Dharma Realm Live, either streaming right this minute or in the future from the archives. We're going to continue our exploration of this chapter. Please turn to page 8 and 9 in your booklet. Page 8 and 9. We're going to look into the text first in Chinese, then in English, and we have a Vietnamese translation happening in the balcony if anybody would like to listen to Vietnamese. And at 9 o'clock tonight, we have something special. I'm going to tell you about it right now in case people want to budget their time. Gold Buddha Monastery in Vancouver, Jin Fo Si, recently celebrated their 30th anniversary, and they found a Dharma friend who put together a very nice video presentation about the history of Gold Buddha. And I was present personally for some of that early history, so we took a look at their presentation, and it's quite nice. And it tells you about our teacher's vision early on, and about how the Buddha Dharma spread to Canada. So there's there's some footage of Master Hua, which is pretty rare. Get to hear his voice and see a lot about how our nuns have expanded the Dharma in Canada, because Gold Buddha is a women's monastery, and it's very well done. It's only 20-some minutes. To give us the time? 25 minutes. So highly recommended, and please do stick around. We're going to put it on the screen and take a look. Also, the commentator on the video speaks in Chinese, and it's a great chance to practice your Mandarin as well. But there are subtitles, and the subtitles are well translated. So, all right, now on our text, please turn to the second paragraph, page 8. It says, 复作是念,反复无知. You'll see where that is. It's actually line 4, but it's the second paragraph. We're going to read it first in Chinese and then over in English. Okay, could you please put your palms together if you care to do that? 复作是念, 反复无知, 执着于我, 常求有无, 不正思维, 其余妄横, 行于邪道, 罪横福横, 不动横, 积极增长, 于主横中, 知心种子, 有漏有取, 复其后有, 生及老死. All right, there we go. Over to the right now. Again, it's this would be the third paragraph. Then he thinks. Let's read it together in unison. Here we go. Then he thinks. Ordinary people lacking wisdom calculate based on their sense of self. They constantly vacillate between existence and its opposite. They do not see correctly and thus make wrong choices. Those mistakes lead them along crooked roads. This behavior creates offenses, blessings, and imperceptible karma. All of this karma accumulates and increases. As they do these deeds, they plant seeds in the mind, seeds which lead to outflowing and grasping. These bring on their future existence, birth, old age, and death. Okay. Let's look at the text and see if we can't. I want to base the commentary on these words because they're extremely important words. Fuzo Shenyan. He, the bodhisattva, this person who wants to wake up and wants to wake others up. That's a he or a she, doesn't matter the gender, could be a man, could be a woman. Fuzo Shenyan. He, she thinks. So it takes us into the mind of the bodhisattva. The bodhisattva has this occur in the mind. He says, she says. Now, if you want to say she, just translate it over. I'll use the masculine pronoun, but you can hear it as feminine. He thinks, 反复无知, ordinary people don't have any wisdom. Who's an ordinary person? It's anyone who's not a sage, anybody who's not awake yet. Okay, that we need some chairs. There are chairs over yonder. So, yeah. Anybody who is not yet awake is considered a fanfu. So the opposite of a fanfu would probably be a sage. And a sage is a person who thinks and reacts and like an ordinary person, but has a deeper insight. So has all the qualities that we have, but puts the pieces together in a different way, sees differently. Yeah, you want to move the chairs, not there, but over. There we go. Thank you. Excellent. Ordinary people don't have any wisdom. And then the bodhisattva explains what he or she means. What do you mean by that? The bodhisattva says, here's what I mean by that. Lacking wisdom, what I mean is they 执着于我, they grab onto the self. They calculate based on the self. 长求有无. And they're always going back and forth between, well, I exist, but then again, I can't find myself either. I exist, but I don't. I'm really here, but then I can't find it. I think I want to defend myself, but then I know being proud is a sin. Pride goeth before a fall, says the Bible, and say most sacred scriptures all talk about pride, meaning attaching to that self, is wrong. But if I don't stand up for myself, then I'm a pushover. I'm a loser. I'm what the world laughs at. And nobody wants to be a loser, so maybe I should assert myself, but then I know that's wrong. But then again, sometimes I wake up and I'm so proud of my accomplishments, my education, my family, my fortune. But then when I'm sick or feeling depressed, it all amounts to nothing. That's what it means, vacillating back and forth. I think I exist, but sometimes I know I'm not. I don't really. So what's true ultimately? Am I really here or not? Do I matter as an entity, as a unit? But then, you know, when I feel connected to everybody, there's that sense of freedom and liberation when the self just kind of vanishes into a larger community. Ultimately, what's true, right? So that's what it's talking about. And I hope my sketching of what this might mean sounds familiar. I think we can all write the plays of our lives inside this idea. Living beings are constantly, ordinary people like us, are always calculating about the me. Do I really exist or do I not? 不正思维. And as a result, we don't ever get a chance to see things the way they really are. 趋于往恒. And as a result, in the midst of this, trying to ultimately figure out where the boundaries of the me are set, where do I become we? Where does the self become us? Right? Where does mine become ours? What happens? 趋于往恒. We go wrong. The four words mean we create false actions or wrong actions. Okay? So that wang there, it just means we go wrong. We make mistakes. 行于邪道, and as a result go down the wrong road. I recently saw a synopsis of the film The Wolf of Wall Street. Not a film I'd recommend. Well acted, well produced, but definitely going to mess your mind over and lead you down the wrong path. Story of The Wolf of Wall Street is a true story about a man who took the energy of greed that was prevalent during the time of the financial boom before the crash, before the recession, and just ran amok with it. And the film is a paean. It's a praise of greed embodied, and clearly the story shows a mind just like my mind that didn't at any point reflect and say, that's enough. In fact, that's too much. I should regulate. It would be good to take less. It would be good to say stop or enough. That the protagonist, I'm not touting the film, the protagonist never ever said enough, stop, that's plenty, I'll give a little bit. The only direction was consumption, me, more for me, more for me. I got rich, you can get rich, just follow me and devour the world. Qi yu wang heng, xing yu xie dao. Go wrong with our actions and take it down a wrong road. Now, the sutra goes on to describe what that means. Here's what it means. 罪横福横不动横积极增长. Three things result from going wrong, going down the wrong road, which is what? Offenses, blessings, and 不动横 means indeterminate. So our actions create offenses, create blessings, the opposite of offenses, or actions that neither result in offenses or blessings. They accumulate. Those things accumulate. How do they accumulate? 于主横中直心中子. Amid all these three kinds of actions, seeds get planted in the mind, 有漏有取, and those seeds either take root in the mind, and it says outflow, and or they create grasping in the body. 复气后有, and then existence happens as those seeds ripen and get harvested. 生于老死, and what happens? We're born and we die again. Okay. Stop. That's our text. What is going on here? Let me take a step back. I know there's a lot of folks here tonight who maybe are listening to a Buddhist sutra for the very first time. We're looking at a Buddhist scripture, meaning these are words the Buddha spoke, and we're in one corner of a very large text. We're in a section of the text that's talking about what's called bodhisattvas. And bodhisattvas are these awakened beings, unselfish humans who want to live for others. That this is how they interpret the purpose of life, is to benefit others. They say that bodhisattvas, a Sanskrit word, bodhi, awakened, sattva, being. They're already awake. And they're awake to what? Precisely this, our topic tonight, which is the illusory existence of the self. That I seem to be here, but I can't ever quite find it. The bodhisattva says, fine, good, that's true, so I'm going to use this illusory self to wake others up. That's a bodhisattva. Sutra's talking about that kind of person. Male, female, doesn't matter. Young, old, doesn't matter. Ancient, modern, all the same. How does this bodhisattva think? How do they look at the world? And then, seeing things that way, how do they get into action? What do they do with that? That's the topic of our sutra. And it's, for people who are fresh to Buddhist sutras, tonight's text has a distinct quality, and I think it's surprising. It's not what you'd expect of a religious classic, right? A religious classic should be on, with Bible paper and maybe illuminated capital letters and kind of a holy smell to it and all. What is this text? This text is much closer to the kind of manual that you stuff in your back pocket and you pull it out and it's got oil stains on it and it's dog-eared, and you read it and you get your buddy over to talk about it, you shine a light on it and think, all right, we put Framus A to Frimble E and the Gadget 7 turns on the flywheel, and with the extra propulsion, it should go round and come out there. It worked. Put it back in your pocket. Okay, step B, That's what it's like. It's a tech manual. This text is explaining what goes on in birth and death, what goes on in bringing us back to life, carrying us through life leaving life and coming back. This is a textbook of what's going on under the hood of mortality. Nothing less. That's what it is. It's a mortality and reincarnation. Another fancy 75-cent word is transmigration. It's a transmigration primer, if you can imagine what that might be like. It's what's really going on from birth to death, that period in between, and coming back. Well, now that's a religious text with some stature. I mean, none of the lukewarm parables, right? Let's get some religious text with some guts, some grit. What's it talking about? What's it like to die? What's it like to come back? And what happens if I put my hands on the wheel of that vehicle going down the road of existence? Here's how to do it. It's a how-to manual for ending suffering. And it's an explanation for where suffering comes from. That's the Buddha's project. Okay, so how do we know that's true? It's because this is directly in line with the founding story of our faith. How did Buddhism as a teaching, as a religion, as an institution, as an idea, how did it begin? It began with a prince who had been fooled all of his life by his father, who didn't want him to wake up. His father created a pleasure dome, an illusory floating world designed to keep his son ignorant and happy. And it worked for a long time, but the prediction that this son was going to have a distressing awakening, which is going to propel him out of his Xanadu, out of his casino, into the real world, happened. He went out into the city and in a period of 3 days saw old age, saw an old person, he saw an invalid, a sick person, and he saw a corpse. He saw death happen. And given the context of his utter ignorance of the processes of life and death, it shocked him. He couldn't swallow it, couldn't contextualize. No place to put that in his awareness. And then, promptly, he saw the fourth messenger. This is how that story goes. And the fourth messenger said, I'm cultivating the path that ends this process. And the prince said, who can do that? And the cultivator, the ascetic, or the messenger said, you can, and you will follow me, he said. He set off for the forest. Well, that was enough. The prince said, that's worthy of my time. I don't want to just be the prince and enjoy my 6 senses and cramming all of life into them as much as I can until it's time to die and in the darkness lie down. Go away. I don't want to do that. What's the point of that? That's pointless. He made that connection so quickly. So he did. He left the palace, said goodbye to his wife, cut off his hair, jumped over the wall, went out into the forest, and set about answering the question, what's going on in human life? What's this thing called mortality? After all, tell me about mortality, he said to the universe, right? With no promise. Mind you, look at, suppose that was our awareness suddenly. We realized that no matter how much wealth we pay, no matter what country we live in, how much wealth we make, no matter how many taxes we pay, no matter what kind of food we eat, clothes we wear, vehicles we drive, smartphones we utilize, none of these issues matter in the end, because impermanence catches us and we go. It's only a question of when. With that awareness, if we went out, where would we go, first of all? If we wanted to get the equivalent of Prince Siddhartha's challenge, is there any wilderness left? Yeah, there is. You could go, to the Rocky Mountains or the Sierras. but they could probably still track you by drone or bot or helicopter. If you really want to hide, where would you go? Probably downtown. Probably go hide in Detroit, you know. Detroit is pretty much uncharted wilderness these days, you know. It's gone back to the jungle in so many corners of Detroit. That's the place where, you know, there's no water to a lot of the neighborhoods, even with people living in them. So, yeah, probably an urban jungle would be the place to go to get lost these days if you really wanted to disappear. Or you could probably wind up somewhere in Shenzhen, you know, faceless in Shenzhen, along with the toiling masses. So, anyway, so that's what he did. He said, I got to figure this out. I'm not going to just emptily go. That's futile. In ignorance, just to vanish. And then what? Then what? Why is this person so poor? Why is this person suffering in front of my eyes? Sick, infested, miserable. And yet, look at me, through no fault of my own, I have my choice of robes to wear. I have my choice of delicacies to eat. How can this be? How is it so unfair? You know, so these are the questions that were turning the wheels of the prince. He cultivated for 6 years. That's our verb. That's our power verb, to cultivate. He looked into it. He investigated that question using all the different techniques that he encountered in the jungle, in the forest, in the bush, as they say in Australia. He went for a walkabout, 6 years, and he got the answer. He woke up and discovered what was really going on. And as we've been going into this text, this particular section of our text, we've been using the analogy of lifting the hood on the engine of the universe, right? And if you're not in an automotive world, that won't make sense. But for people who've ever worked on a car, if you've ever changed your oil, right? That's all. You just have to go. Nowadays, we go inside under the steering wheel and go chunk and release the hood latch. In the old days, it used to be in front. You'd lift it up. Or if you, like me, drove a Volkswagen bus, you went behind, right? And propped it up, put the prop up. You lift the hood. When you lift the hood, what do you discover? There's this big, dirty, oily thing that's going chunk, 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 chunk. Pistons going up and down, and crankshaft turning around, and the valves opening up, and the carburetor mixing the fuel in the air. And that's what makes the car go forward. It's the engine. There's an engine, and you have to tune it. Somebody's got to keep that thing running right so that we happily turn the key, grab the wheel, press the pedal, and we go, right? Because that engine in there is going correctly, properly tuned right up, just right, right? So most of us happily don't care. We don't care about that. Unless, now mind you, nowadays we have to change our picture. Suppose you got a Prius. If you have a hybrid, then it goes, it's running, I think, you know. Check the computer inside. That's how we know it's running, because it's quiet, right? Or if you're one of those interesting individuals who owns and drives a Tesla, our friend Sam, the other Sam in San Jose, Sam has a Tesla. Not this Sam, the other Sam. Sam drives a Tesla, and he loves to open the hood and show you there's nothing there. There's no engine in a Tesla. Batteries, you know. So, anyway. So, what about lifting the hood, by analogy, on our lives? Is there an engine? Uh-huh. How does it work? We just read it. This is the engine of our lives. What is it? We think the self is real, and we calculate based on it. I love this, I hate this. I want that, I got to get away from that. That's pretty much where, that would be the equivalent of driving your car and all you know is the steering wheel and the accelerator and the brake. I just need to make it go. I don't care about anything else. If that's the way we relate to our cars, welcome to the world. That's the way most of us. How do we translate that into our lives? Love and hate. Pursue pleasure, run from pain. Mostly. If we're really honest with ourselves, the marketplace counts on that. That's what drives the wheels of industry and advertising, right? They're going to love this. I'm loving it, right? I want it my way. I want it personalized. This is the way I like my latte, right? With 2 shots and sprinkles, no foam, low foam, right? So we personalize in the marketplace because we love it that way. However, I know what I hate, and I can't stand that. I got to get away from that. So mostly that's how we go, even in big things, like we run from anxiety, headaches. How many of us, when a headache happens, we just say, it'll go away tomorrow? Most of us reach for the Tylenol, right? Or the Excedrin, or the aspirin. Most of us, because we can. We medicate pain away. We can't abide pain. That's the way a progressive culture, civilization can do. That's our power now. I don't think my mother's generation was able to, medicate pain away. So this is what we do. We run from pain and we pursue pleasure. And strangely enough, in the midst of all of this, pleasure never quite lasts. Or I almost got, and even if we get it, it doesn't last. But the pain part is like, oh, gotta go. Here it comes. It's just right behind me. Right? What is pain? Pain is a pink slip. Pain is what's called restructuring, downsizing, right-sizing. Oh my goodness. Lose your job? Ooh. Pain is homelessness. Pain is your significant other breaking up with you via text message. Right? I don't love you anymore. Delete. Oops. What do you mean? Send a smiley. Send a smiley face. Right? That's pain. That's pain. So, boy, but what is pleasure? Pleasure is, I suppose, winning $225 million at the lotto, which some guy in San Mateo did 2 days ago, right? He won big score! Oh boy. So, okay, that's where we live. Sutra says, not deep enough, friends. Let's go deeper. We can live there, but wisdom wants to take us inside that process, and we can. So what is this? This is rolling up your sleeves, lifting the lid of your toolbox, picking your screwdriver and metric wrench, and looking at the engine and going, let's see now, there's the dipstick. Oil, yeah. Windshield wiper fluid, yeah. We're starting to get involved in the process of that engine that's going carrying us down the road. Okay, you got the 2 metaphors happening here. All right, what do? We calculate based on our sense of self, our awareness of self, our supposition that we suppose the self exists, our notion. The language that we're using these days around here to describe it is that construction of self. What's our self like? It's a constructed self. We build the self. Suppose you have what's called low self-esteem. Suppose it's not so much that I'm proud or attached or arrogant or prideful, it's that I think I'm actually not enough. My mom showed me that. My father showed me that. My big sister showed me that I'm really kind of, a loser. I never have the right clothes. I have bad hair days more than good hair days. I never got honor society. I took a second-tier college. I married the wrong wife, man, husband, blah, blah, you know, all the scorecard. We toed up the boxes in the victories of life, and we're losers. Is that a constructed self? Absolutely. Makes no difference whether we're arrogant or whether we're deficient in self-esteem, right? We are still building that notion that I'm really here, distinct, separate, different from you, and really the center of the universe. In my depression and in my pride, right? No different. It's a constructed self. And one of the great joys of Buddhist meditation, if you're on the teaching side of it, and all it takes to be a meditation teacher is find some kids and have them sit still and talk to them, you know. Teach meditation, stillness to a bunch of 6-year-olds. They get it really fast. You have to adjust your expectations. About 2 minutes is as long as they can sit still. But if kids see you do it, they'll imitate it right away. Are we done? This is fun. What can you do if you're teaching meditation? You say, okay, show me where the me exists. Find me the me. Right? Where are you? Where's the me? Is it in your teeth? Look into it. No, I don't think so. Is it in your eyes? Where's the self? Where's the me? Right? Different from your brother. Well, is it in your nose? Or is it just, you know, inside your nose? Stick your finger in there and find out. You know. No, you can't find the me. Where's the me? You look and you look. And as you're sitting still, in fact, am I in my blood? Am I in my something esoteric like my DNA? Well, our DNA is about 97% the same as chimpanzees. Where's the self? You know, and it doesn't take long at all to discover that you can't find it. Right? That's a huge awakening. And kids won't get that part, but young adults who are already questioning about their choices of friends and their future, you know, it's like, I can't find anything different in me than who I was yesterday and who I want to become. What is that, in fact, that has hopes and fears and expectations and anxieties? And wow, I've never taken the time to look. Thank you for asking. Who knows? Who actually has found that answer to who's inside? So busy, right? So this is what the Buddha's project. Don't call it the Buddha. The Buddha's a title. He became the Buddha after he succeeded. He was just a guy under a tree in the woods trying to figure this out, right? So there's no ownership of this. And even after he became the Buddha, it wasn't, you know, hi, I'm the Buddha, circle R. You know, you want to use my name, you got to license it. Not. He was a person who'd had a change, a transformation, who understood he was awake now and immediately wanted other people to wake up. So he never owned this. And likewise, I'm saying I made this equivalent to a repair manual that you stick in your pocket and pull out and figure it out with your buddies. Grease-stained and dog-eared, right? It's public domain. This is just like songs that go into public domain. This is just like, what do we have that is public domain? Zip codes, a zip code directory, right? Zip codes directories are very useful. You want to get it right, right? You want to know the zip code of the place you're mailing. This is a zip code directory. It's that much fact. This is the periodic table of elements, something owned by everybody and very useful. This is a copy of the legal statutes. It's the Constitution, right? How a country is built. It's that impersonal, non-sectarian, not religious, so to speak. This is a how-to manual. All right, got that. So, what else? When you lift the hood on what's going on, you discover that, says the Buddha, that we do things that create mistakes, we do things that create blessings, good stuff, and there's neutral stuff. It's kind of like a ledger. So in the midst of nobody home, in the midst of no definite self here, we take that constructed, fluid, changing sense of me, different from everybody, and we go out and we make huge mistakes. We do immense good, and we also do things that don't plant seeds. But so he's saying, within those three behaviors, mistakes that will incur a debt, right? Killing somebody, for example. Stealing from somebody, for example. Lying to somebody, for example. Or benefiting people. Saving them from difficulty. Nurturing their humanity, right? Teaching them something. Ways that we benefit people. And behaviors that don't particularly make waves. Sleeping, for example, right? In the midst of those three things, every single deed we do plants a seed. Here's the first time we've run into that concept. These are seed planting behaviors. And now, this is where it gets complicated. What does he say? 知心种子. We plant down seeds in the mind. 有漏有取，复其后有，生即老死. Those seeds, 有漏, they ripen and outflow. This low is like a leak. They leak out. They don't stay distinct in the mind, 有取, and they lead to behavior that wants to stop. 取 is to grasp. This is 取, right? 取花. I grasped the flowers. I picked them up. I picked up my teacup. I grasped that. So those seeds interact, in other words. They have power. Those are psychically active, psychoactive seeds. They're not inert. They're not impotent. They're potent seeds. Further, 复其后有, they are alive. They exist. They come into being. In other words, they harvest. The best analogy would be a garden. I know we have gardeners here. And plant those seeds down, they come up. Where do weeds come from? They weren't there 3 days ago. You come out now, look, there's weeds. There's the green thing growing right up, sturdy, healthy. It's a weed. It's not something I planted. I don't want it there, but look at it. Where was that seed? Right there, in the ground. Why is it growing? Time came. It's time. Up it came. Okay, we're heading into the time of chrysanthemums. Mostly roses are done, mostly. There's a few sturdy roses around, especially in Berkeley. Chrysanthemums are pretty much autumn flowers. If you have lilies now in September, closing in on October, unusual. The bulbs don't grow now. They grow in February, March. That's when you want to see these incredible lilies coming up. And yet, where are the lilies now in September, October? They're there, but they're in the seed state, the bulb state below the ground. Dig them up, you'll find them, but they're not ready, right? Seeds in the mind are planted with the actions that we do. When the time comes, they what is it? It's 复其后有. They create life. They exist. They come up later. Those seeds mature later. 生即老死. What do they do? There's birth, then there's age, then there's death. Just like these flowers wait. If we had these on time lapse, you'd see them go, they wilt away. So, what is the Buddha talking about? He's talking about what's really going on invisibly in the process of giving us our lives and taking our lives away. This is the mechanism of mortality. Right there on the page. From somebody who saw it and could step outside of the process, who had a perspective on it. It's like he was swimming in the ocean but knew it was water. Right? They say fish aren't aware that they're swimming in the ocean. You have to go ask them, you have to interview a fish to find out whether they're really aware that they're in the water. But the story goes that fish don't know they're in the water. Are you supremely aware of the air you're breathing right now? Right? When you came in this monastery, you thought, boy, the air in here is different. Well, people talk about the incense. They say they step in the monastery and they smell the incense. We burn a lot of incense here. Maybe so, but mostly we're not aware that we exist in an atmosphere tightly controlled, subtly adjusted. If you don't believe it, pinch your nostrils for about 5 minutes. Suddenly you'll be very aware of the presence of the air around us, right? Well, the Buddha is in this environment and yet aware of it. He can see this process going on. That's what he woke up to. And he, as we've been doing prior in the exercise, the pages before this, he deconstructed, he unbuilt that constructed self, showed its parts, where that view comes from, and showed us that it's not a given. The self is a fluid notion. An example, we had a baby here today at lunch. It was An's granddaughter. And she's a cutie. She's really completely... How old is An's daughter? Is she a year and a half? Is she 2? Not quite 2, right? No, she's before, she may be 18 months or something like that. And she's walking around, and she's engaging everything, and pretty mellow kid. But you can see how much maintenance and how utterly attached she is to Grandma. And Grandma's loving having this little kid. You know, you can see it works really well. But the slightest thing goes wrong in the maintenance of this little organism, and you know. And it was funny today at lunch because she really started to wail. She was, you could hear the, you know, what's next is this ear splitting. And all the moms in the room went like that, you know. And then An did some grandma magic. I watched her because I was watching this whole play happen, you know, in front of me. And she rubbed her chest and laughed at her, and she went, and everybody went, because the wail turned to a laugh within a minute. Did you notice that, David? Were you watching that go down? It was like, it was great. What magic this grandma has, you know. She can, like, catch that cry in mid decibel and turn it to a laugh. Boy, oh boy, that's real skill. So this baby, she's aware that this great large adult is in the center of her life. You know, every need is catered to immediately, especially in public, you know. Her awareness will not be that way in 20 years. In 20 years, she may well be a mom herself. Or she'll be, you know, involved in all the things that college students are involved in. She'll have a very different awareness that the very same person had at age 18 months. And then add 20 years, when she's 40, how different, same person, different constructed self, right? So in the midst of these bodies that seem to be a limit, this seems to be as far as I go, and yet I'm in here. You know, I'm alive in here and can't quite figure out why that person who I can't stand just gives me the creeps. Why does, when I'm with that person, my breath shortens, my muscles tense, and yet when I see that person over there, I'm just attracted so strongly, and I just want to get close to them, and what, how, you know. Different chemistry, different vibe. Are we seeing colors? Are we seeing sounds? What is it that attracts us to one and repels us to another? And yet that can change. We marry someone and we're constant companions, and then after 7 years, something's not the same, right? There's that 7-year itch they talk about. And the passion goes cold. But if you can get through that gate, there's something that happens that bonds the couple even stronger. They become life companions, inseparable, having gotten through that chemical change that seems to happen and yet becomes, your very best friend in life. What kind of magic is going on? It's the constructed self going through its phases. The Buddha says, here's what's going on. Here's what's really going on. Take a step back from this process and see that old age, sickness, and death has a cause. Blessings and offenses have causes. What's the cause? That me that is in charge that doesn't exist at all. There's nobody driving the car of our lives, but we're going down the road full speed ahead. How bizarre. And how perfectly natural. Right? Who's the boss of my life? Who's in charge of my life? Well, the Buddha would say, look into it, can't find him. Except the gardener who planted that garden last time, and last time, and last time, he would say, that is now coming to harvest. And if you want to know who's in charge of you down the road, it would be the illusory self planting the seeds right now. It's just this ongoing process of creating debts and coming back for repayment or to be repaid. For better and for worse. The good stuff is all there too. Why, if we ask the question, why are we not in West Africa dying of Ebola? Well, one answer might be just wait. We could be, and I don't know. The Center for Disease Control probably won't let that happen. But why are predicted 1 million people going to be suffering from Ebola in the next couple months, and yet it's not in Berkeley, knock on wood, right? You'd have to say we don't have that particular karmic seed. Question, Steve? No? Good. Yeah, I'll pray for that. And pray for the folks who are not controlling that disease. It's really here. We read about it in the news, and it seems very far away, but West Africa, you get in the plane, you'll be there before morning. What about, oh my, I was listening to NPR the other day. They say, what we need right now are volunteers to go to the nations of West Africa, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Ghana, and these places, to go help with the very necessary job of stopping the spread of this virus. And the commentator said, and it's interesting, there seems to become somewhat of a dearth of volunteers compared to like earthquake relief and disaster relief in Haiti, and somehow people are not jumping to go to West Africa to get involved in stopping the spread of the Ebola virus. Yeah, dude, it's like, you bet. As we hear about the Doctors Without Borders who, come back and are put under quarantine and might die, and, it's like, that would be selfless devotion to the planet, to go to Liberia, Monroeville, and stop the Ebola virus, in Sierra Leone. And, oh boy, who's going to mess with it, right? Well, what if we have no choice? They say those cities and the villages are currently under total curfew. Nobody dares go out. And yet, right in the middle of those countries, of the countries of West Africa, there are folks who are going through their day normal because it's over there, but it's not here. It's not the case that everybody is infected in Sierra Leone, not at all. So What's the difference is the question. And the difference is, what seeds did we plant before? What seeds are we planting now? Why do some people live through war zones and come out just fine? Same. Why are other people, in the midst of plenty and peace, struck down with tragic illnesses? Again, it's the seeds they planted that mature at different times. So, all right. What an interesting section of text to run into, right? This is the Handbook of Mortality, where the problems that we meet, the big ones like birth and death, come from. And now, okay, so there we go. I wanted to take a look at this and then put it in the context of other creation stories. This is powerful medicine for people who come from a theistic tradition. What's a theistic tradition? There's a creator God. Who's that? About 75% of the world's religious believers come from one form of theistic tradition or another. This is saying, God didn't make me. This is saying, nobody else is in charge. In fact, you're not in charge either, but never mind. Right? We'll get there later. Nobody's in charge. You're not in charge. But no, God is in charge. And when you look at it that way, it's like, oh, I don't know if I can absorb that so quickly, because why? Who's in charge? When things go wrong, who do I blame? Right? Who's at fault when things really go bad? And the answer would be, well, I am. But then the Buddha's saying, who's the I? He's saying, look into it, you can't find it. You go, wait, that doesn't, really? Nobody's in charge? Is that nihilism? No, you did it. But the you who you think did it can't be found. That's either airy-fairy to the extreme or just so true I can't stand it. That's profound, right? This is what the Buddha saw. We're in there totally responsible for everything that happens to us, good and bad, and yet if you want to locate and grab and manipulate and talk to and bargain with and bribe the boss, he's not there. So what an interesting creation story, huh? This is profound because it points back to a level that we're usually not used to going, but then when you get there, there's nothing but the actions. There's nothing but the doing. Is that kind of, what do we think? We think Wizard of Oz. Okay, highly recommended. Wolf of Wall Street, you can avoid it. Wizard of Oz, you want to see it. Go get a good copy, recolored copy of Wizard of Oz, right? And in the end, it's a great story. It's one of our best cinematic stories of our culture. Dorothy and Toto, the little dog, are there in the end. It looks like everything's coming to a disastrous close. And Toto, the dog, goes running over to the side of the palace and goes and pulls the curtain aside. What does she see? What's revealed? This old guy, this old fart with a mustache, pulling levers and making clouds of smoke come up and making noises, thunder, and making everybody afraid, just like a stagehand on a stage, right? Turning the dials, raising the curtain, pulling the levers, making the scenery go up and down. And he says, oh, little dog, oh, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Trying to keep the illusion going, right? In fact, it's this old guy. He's the wizard. And he was had a great dream, and it kind of went sour when reality happened. There he is. There's the wizard. They found him. We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. And they find him, thanks to Toto the dog. And sure enough, he's harmless, but he's the one in charge. And so, right now, we go through our lives, and stuff is so important, and our schedules are so important. And it's got to get done. There's a deadline. There's pressure. Our significant other has got us jumping with that scowl, right? He gives that face, and it pushes our button. That's all it takes, is one look from, just like, don't give me that face. And we get all upset because there's that look again, Or silence. You just turn away, Give him the corner of your head, And it's paralyzed. So stuff is so important. And we get into these behavior cycles, locked into this treadmill of frustration. There's nothing going on. There's nobody there. It's just habit and seeds from prior behavior coming ripe now, planting seeds now that will ripen later. The good and the bad. So, when, there's that old joke about the story, the reputation, there's a sage on the mountaintop in a cave, and it's very hard to get up to that cave. It's very difficult, arduous, most people can't make it. And so this rich man decides that he's bought everything that he can buy, and he just doesn't want anything anymore, but he wants to ask a question of the sage. That's what he wants to do. And so he finds someone who can show him the road to the cave, and twists and turns and disappointments, but he persists, and he finally finds the path. And he sees this little purple light up on the top of the mountain. This must be it. So he climbs up and has to give up all kinds of stuff. He has to just renounce a lot to get up there, lighten his pack, or else he won't make it. He has to risk his life to jump over the last crevasse. And makes it. He's clawing his way up, and he finally sees the mouth of the cave, and he goes in, and and he pulls out a stick of incense and bows down, offers the incense, and he says, "Ah, O wise sage," he said, "I'm here. May I ask a question? Would you speak Dharma for me?" And the old sage doesn't answer, but just smiles. Doesn't say no. So the rich man bows down. He says, "Please, please, what is the secret of life?" He says, "What is the secret of life?" Opens one eye, opens the other eye, smiles, and in a gentle voice says, "Do no evil. Do good deeds." Closes his eyes and sits back. Oh, the rich man is furious. He goes, "What? What? Do you know what I went through to get here? This is the famous sage. Anybody, even a 3-year-old, knows that much," he says. And so the sage goes, "Perhaps a 3-year-old knows that much, but you, sir, can't do it," he says. That's the end of the story. Followed by a sneeze. This story was brought to you by the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery. Tune in for future, if you would like a copy of the story for your very own. So that's it, right? A 3-year-old knows that much, but even you, kind sir, Can't do it. True, right? True. It's like, what is it saying? It's saying, do good, those seeds are planted down. Do evil, those seeds are planted down. Do nothing, and the garden rests. But whatever we do with the illusory self, something's coming. That's not the end of the story. We plant those seeds, they ripen and fall. Old age, sickness, and death. It's natural. This is supernature. It's not supernatural, it's supernature, meaning this is nature plus. This is really natural. And it's been this way forever and forever and forever and forever. If you want to say the story of the human race, what is true human history? We just read it. This is the engine under the hood powering the life story of every individual who's ever breathed, not just humans. True for mosquitoes, true for whales, true for your grandpa, true for your grandchild, true for you. So, that's interesting. What an amazing spiritual scripture, right? This is scripture with teeth. That's why I say this is a religious classic worthy of the time. And it's printed on paper that, we bind it ourselves, translated the next chunk was being translated today. It's so thin and fragile, but there it is. This is the handbook of the universe from an expert. And he's just hoping that people will want to read it, will look at it. He gets nothing out of it other than a sense of, I ought to tell this story because this is the story. This is the real story of what's going on. Now, what comes next, and the rest of this is the 6th ground out of the 10 grounds chapter. What comes next is a step-by-step, precise description of the mechanism. It's called the 12 links, pratitya samutpada in Sanskrit, 12 links of conditioned arising, how one thing leads to the other, and why is it that we don't know that this engine is chugging away under the hood of our lives, right? What really goes on? How does ignorance cover over our awareness of this process? How does this outflowing and grasping give rise to future existence? Step by step in detail, the Buddha is going to describe it. And as I've said before, there are scholars and wise people who say, of all the Buddha's discoveries and ideas that he shared with us, this is the most unique. Among all the different religious ideas, heaven, hell, karma, original sin, salvation, resurrection, all of these important religious notions that are floating around on Sunday mornings around the world, devotion and offerings and offenses and repentance, all these great ideas. This is the one that is most uniquely the Buddha's. Because why? He lifted the lid, saw how the engine was working, and described it. Right? So, now, this is where we are in our text, right? Where's the compassion? Where's the peacefulness that people associate with the Buddha, right? We come to hear about compassion and peace and joy and kindness. Well, that can be part of this awareness when you see how universally this thing is happening, how everybody is being driven by this driverless car. We're all on board, running down the road, amok, right? Compassion follows after. But tonight, these weeks, where we're in the 6th ground, we're getting the tech manual. This is kind of heartless. That is to say, there's no feeling attached to this. It's pure description of a mechanism. But when you put flesh and blood on it, you go, good grief. You mean that's happening to my beloved sister? Good grief, that's happening to my parents, my teacher, my kids, my friends? The answer is, yeah, it's happening to your pets. It's happening to goldfish, right? It's happening to birds in the sky. This is the process that brings things into being, creates the stuff that we do every day, and then we go away. So let me ask you, what model were you using to describe where people go when they die? You know, what other story do we have to tell at that time? People go, and there are those of us sitting here tonight who have had that experience recently. And what do you tell yourself? You know, I was just at a graveside, and bless his heart, Pastor Doug said, God in His infinite wisdom called her back. She has gone to the greater glory, to the infinite peace. And I know there are people who get great comfort from those words. And far be it from me to take away any of that. If those words work for you, we tell ourselves stories about what's going on when people die. And what about if your beloved child, you got through the pregnancy, the child was delivered, and you got the crib, and you got the car seat, and you got the clothing, and your kid's autistic, right? Or cerebral palsy, or birth defects of some sort, or the kid goes in 6 months. You know, any of these tragic, heartbreaking, grief-filled stories that are happening in our families today, right? What story do we tell to make it work, to get us through the night, right? Well, a story, right? How many of us just say, well, that's the way it is, dude, you know, luck of the draw. No, you gotta explain it. You gotta make sense of it somehow. That's the way these human animals work. The Buddha's saying, here's what I saw. Here's my story of what I saw happening as we come and go. And don't take it personally, says the Buddha. This is how it works. Not just for you, but for everybody. It's been going on like this forever. This should be patented and then given away. It should be Creative Commons license, right? It should be heritage learning. And, mind you, I want to say, in India, this was part of liberal arts education. This notion of rebirth and karma it's called Inming, right? This is one of the 5 subjects that students were taught. This is part of the basic liberal arts curriculum. This is the humanities that was all of education, was what? Learning about people. Why don't we learn this stuff? Why do we go on into marketing? You know, learning how to make more money. Why do we go into computer science? Bless their hearts. Why do we go into demographics when we don't have a clue about what's bringing us here and where we go when we die? You know, well, the answer is we don't. But this should be fundamental. This is the study of living systems as they aggregate and decompose. What a profoundly wonderful topic to study. And pull away the scariness, take away the mystery. This is not airy-fairy, esoteric Eastern religion. This is called one human's insight into the process that brought him here, and takes the rest of us away, and how to get in charge of it. Take charge. This should be handed out online, with your morning coffee. What's going on? So, anyway, you studying that airy-fairy Buddhist mumbo-jumbo stuff? Woo-woo, dude. Yeah, we are, actually. Okay. I want to give us time to see the video that I talked about, and I also want to honor a project that has arisen here. Do you all have a songbook in front of you? Could you turn to page 76? The project is somebody wants to illustrate this particular song, which has a story behind it. I think it's a great project, and we want to see it come to a good end. And story goes, I did a pilgrimage at one point in my formation as a monk, and traveled up the Pacific Coast Highway, Highway 1, got to a place between Santa Barbara and Gaviota Pass, if anybody knows where that is. It's Gaviota Pass is where where Highway 101 and Highway 1 split. Highway 1 goes off to Lompoc and that corner of California where the cowboys, there's cowboys in California. That's where they live, up to Big Sur. And Highway 101 goes north, paralleling 5 and... So, in 1977, when Marty Verhoeven and I guess it was 77, we were going through a drought, 7th year of a huge drought. And everything was dry as can be and hot, hot, hot. There was no shade to be found in this corner of the California coast. It's the, if you've ever driven that part, there are oil rigs, and then you go down further and there's the Channel Islands in Santa Barbara. So there's one very large tree down there, huge tree. And what we saw, because we were traveling so slowly, we were part of the landscape, and we could observe everything going on beside us. And under this big spreading tree in the heat of the sun, the tree was giving shelter to animals that are usually mortal enemies. They were all finding shade together under this tree. We're talking deer and coyotes, right? Rabbits and wild dogs, of which there were many in gangs. Snakes and frogs together under the tree, each in their own corner, warily eyeing the other with their tongues hanging out. Right? You ever see a frog's tongue hanging out the corner, like that? Snakes too. Too hot. They were all just seeking shelter. So we thought how wonderful that the animals can, in the peaceable kingdom, make peace long enough to beat the heat, whereas humans put them on the same piece of ground and they will kill each other mercilessly, vis-a-vis Israel and Palestine, Northern Irish and the Republic of Ireland. The Republican nationalists, China, and the communists, all claiming the land. The humans don't have it figured out. But here were the animals under the tree. So So I thought that's worthy of a song. And I need to tell you in advance, there's some stealthy vegetarian propaganda in this song, so be prepared. Water and earth, wind and fire, roots digging deeper, branches reaching higher, north and south and east and west, all beings are kin to me. We're all sitting in the shade of the family tree. Forgot to mention, this is a sing-along, and that was your line. Nobody sang. Here we go. You go. Sitting in the shade of the family tree. Do it again. Sitting in the shade of the family tree. Great. Sounds great. I got earth in my feet, I got oceans in my knees. 7 generations live on inside of me. My roots connect the universe, all beings are family. Join me. We're all sitting in the shade of the family tree. Sitting in the shade of the family tree. What we do to our planet, we do to our home. Planet Earth is our address, nobody lives alone. Everyone's a neighbor in our Earth community. Here we go, join me. We're all sitting in the shade of the family tree. Sitting in the shade of the family tree. Earth is home to all of us. Share the crops, don't make a fuss. Share the food grown in the ground. There's enough to go around. You can eat the burger, pet the cat. One you savor, one you pet. What if we pet the burger and eat the cat? I don't think we got that straight. What's the difference? I got brothers wearing fur, I got sisters wearing fins. Some with wings and some with tails and some with pasty skin. Hey, I don't need my family, come sit here right by me. We're all sitting in the shade of the family tree. One more. Sitting in the shade of the family tree. The cook, she calls it omelet, but the chicken called it egg. You may call it drumstick, but the turkey, Thanksgiving's coming right up, called it leg. Now every mother loves her children, live and let life be. So we can sit beneath the shade of the family tree. Sit beneath the shade of the family tree. Come on, sit beneath the shade of the family tree. As if, huh? And yet, in the midst of it all, no self, no others. Sure does taste good, though. Oh boy. People are interested in this contraption. What is this gadget? This is a combination of natural wood and machine, man-made. It's called a resonator guitar. It's quite a wonderful invention, very American indeed. So at this point, we want to transfer the merit, and we have the lyrics right here in the back of your songbook. So it's interactive, and we want to invite you to please make a wish. Think about those folks where Ebola is happening, who are caught up in it. Think about the people caught on the summit of the mountain in Japan when it erupted yesterday. The eruption happened so quickly. If you go to YouTube, there's a clip of these hikers seeing the cloud of ash spouting up into the air, and within a minute it covers them. It travels so fast, right? And they're breathing this ash, and they're still digging people out of the debris. You might transfer merit to the oceans, where our lives, many people would say, begin, that are acidifying, where species are vanishing, collapsing. You could transfer to the bees that are utterly essential to the economy of California, among other things, and the fruit you had for lunch today came through the hard work of pollinating honeybees that are collapsing. Many people think because of the chemicals in Roundup. So colony collapse disorder is thanks to Monsanto. It is their profit. That's the American dream. Well done, Monsanto. Etc., etc., etc. Transfer the merit that we wake up and stop poisoning our planet. It's the only one we got. There is no plan B for the planet Earth. So it's there. Let's please dedicate, send our wishes out, make it a better world. Our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may their minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light break the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. All right, we have some announcements which I'll make quickly so we can get on to our video. And the video is 25 minutes long, which is going to take us to 9:30. If anybody needs to schedule their departure, please don't feel obliged to stay past your time. The announcements are the Tuesday evening, 7:30, here in Berkeley, Tiant's Tea Shop is hosting us for our Tea and Dharma session, 7:30 Tuesday night. The topic is stories, story listening, being able to listen to stories that tell us where we've been, why we do what we do now, and where we're going. That's The wisdom of our tribe is held in those stories. So we're going to look at that process, tell some great stories, listen to some great stories, sing some songs, and drink the world's finest tea, offered to you by courtesy of Tion's Tea Shop. So please do check that out this Tuesday night, 7:30. Tomorrow, we're going up to CTDB for the bicycle pilgrimage, the 13th running of the Buddhist bicycle pilgrimage, Dharma Wheels, in motion. It's an amazing, California is such a wonderful state, right? We have enough monasteries on the North Coast that people can start at Spirit Rock, go on to the Burmese place, go to CTDB on Sunday for lunch, and wind up at Abhayagiri. Megan, you didn't go this year? No? Okay. Well, but I'm sure your mind is on, you know where they are. Right, so, Sam? You said it's not for first-time bikers, but did Locke do it one time? Are you a first-time biker, Locke? Locke is a martial artist par excellence. He could probably...
Didn't you try once? Yeah,
He really suffered. He did. He did. It's 120 miles. Not recommended for, even if you're not a first-time biker, that's us, you know. So, all these folks are going to be walking into the Buddha Hall at 10:40 tomorrow, 100 people, saddle sore a little bit, and happy to cross their legs and sit still for a while. So that's tomorrow. And Ron, do we have any of Nakasone's cards out there on the table still? Do we know? Locke, would you mind out in the hall there on the table, there are these postcards with Japanese calligraphy on them. Dr. Nakasone, Ron Nakasone, my dissertation chairman and professor, is hosting a calligraphy show at GTU, and I asked Locke to get the details. We'll find out when and where. He is a calligrapher, a lineage holder in an old school of classical Japanese calligraphy, big brush calligraphy. Thanks, Locke. Got it. So he uses brushes that are like this, just, you know, small mops, as Lai Ting called them, and ink pot like that, and he creates these incredible wall size. It's in the GTU library in the atrium in the center from October 1st to January 31st. So it's there for October, November, December. It's there for quite a few months. Free and open to the public. There's a reception October 2nd from 6 to 7:30, and there's a performance of Nufa Gukuru Maises by Majikina Honryu on November 5th. We'll hear more about that. So, just to let you know, there is a masterful calligraphy lineage holder in our midst who's got a show at the GTU. What else do we want to... There's... Yeah. It's a little early to announce it. We're 7 weeks ahead, but we're going to have a Buddha recitation, 3 days of Buddha recitation here at the monastery, something we've never done before, over Thanksgiving weekend. So that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Stay tuned for more information about that. We're going to ask people to register because our space is limited, and we expect a big response. So we'll let you know about that and encourage people to sign up if you'd like to do 3 days of Buddha recitation here, Pure Land devotion around Thanksgiving weekend. Yeah, pretty much. And we'll also do an hour of the Donglin style, the traditional, but mostly it's CTDB method. All right. I'm going to stand up now and go hook up our screen and invite you to join me in looking at a bit of our bigger story. The monks previewed this at lunch and very happy with the results of this. The movie that they created to celebrate Gold Buddha's 30th anniversary.
是谁把这个东方古老而神秘的宗教带到美丽的温哥华呢？是谁建立了金佛圣寺？他就是上宣下化老和尚。1918年，这位法门龙象诞生在长白山脚下。1936年，李三元寺上常下至老和尚辟剃，法号安慈，此即思修长安果亲传无为教，毗卢金顶派传承之谓也。不久，日口侵华，到处哀鸿遍野。师南走曹溪，亲近一代宗师上虚下云老和尚。1949年，神州色变，上人辞别虚老，赴湘江。玄未久，受虚老法脉，为禅宗维养派第9代四法人。亦即摩诃迦舍出祖传承第45代祖。1962年离港至美，建立北美第1个僧团，以不自私、不自利等6大宗旨为家风，领导僧俗，弘法利生，翻译经典。1983年末，遣恒实法师、恒潮法师赴加拿大温哥华起建金佛圣寺。
It was a Salvation Army on the corner of Hastings and Gore in Vancouver's Skid Row, next to Needle Park, where all the drug use people were dying one a day in the single occupancy hotel rooms of overdoses. Sirens, constant sirens, digging up the corpses out of the tenements and taking them to the hospital. Quite a place. The old part of Vancouver, at the end of the Queen's Highway, comes all the way from New Brunswick and Nova Scotia to end at that corner of Vancouver before it reaches the ocean. It was like the sewer of Canada. The grain.
《金佛圣寺》的前身
There it is.
是救世军的教堂。这座坐落在中国城的寺院，结结实实地体现了上人“人欲我予，人弃我取”的精神。首任住席是恒实法师、恒潮法师。这2位美籍
Oh, stop. Good. Here we go. Launch.
法师 除日常上殿过堂外，每日讲2堂经。
金佛寺很多地方都是给我讲法，给我讲这个无常的法，也是给我讲一个律师的法。好比说，我回去后边呢，看到那个房间，有人在要洗那个墙壁，洗了一半，就是他没有拿梯子，就他伸只手就那么高洗的，下边干净，上边肮脏，就是哗，有一次我说，哎，洗的那么乱七八糟，哎，那就是我的手印在那，是我自己，但是洗的没有好好用心在洗，就那么多哗，一次就算了，就是给我自己讲法，很多地方看到那个地毯打的钉子，还是我自己手在钉。那么好像每个角落都是给我自己说法的。
周日期间前来的信众，多为讲广东话的老婆婆。
Gold Buddha it's surrounded by Cantonese old ladies from Hong Kong. They come to the monastery door every day at 7 o'clock. And they're waiting outside. You open the door and they all come in and they take off their coats, they put on their hai ching, and they're there waiting for us to light the incense to start to bow. They want to bow. They want to come in and recite. So every day.
周末则有不少西方人前来聆听法义。这群人在上人的感召下，
初悟的佛法即是不争不贪不求不自私不自利不达妄语。你要记得这6道条款成佛有余。
勤勤恳恳地亲近三宝，学习佛法。
您对这一个第34章有什么疑问，想要跟大家讨论的吗？在这个地方跟大家分享2个东西哈。第一个是那一个中庸，中庸怎么说这个中道怎么样说中？他就说喜怒哀乐之未发，谓之中。喜怒哀乐，我们的情绪喜怒哀乐，我们的这个7情6欲的情绪还没有产生的时候，这一个叫做中。
除了遵循法总的家风，天天转法轮外，放生活动也定期的举办着。由于寺院距离港口只有几街之遥，赶得及将刚捕捞上岸的送回大海。这种尊重生命的举动，成了金佛圣寺30年来从未间断的传统。陪伴金佛圣寺成长茁壮、历时最久的恒持法师认为，金佛圣寺得以如此稳定发展，完全归功于他拥有2大宝藏：一是上人的大愿，2是发大心的护法居士。
When we 2 nuns came to Hastings and Gore, we were taught to get to know our community, to get to know the people in our congregation.
老和尚苦心孤诣地在西方建立道场、翻译经典、创办学校，无非期望正法常住。每个金佛寺人，无论何，只要寺里需要帮忙，他们就会出现在那里。至今，我们仍然可以见到他们领着下一代人，使用着几十年前装订的家具，继续承载法轮常转的使命。上人曾说，金佛圣寺的永续当家是文殊师利菩萨。1987年夏天，上人替这位护持华严盛宴的菩萨和普贤菩萨开光。所谓昼吉祥，夜吉祥，昼夜60恒吉祥。文殊普贤入此殿，是故此处最吉祥。1994年，金佛圣寺10岁了。十方善信同来庆。一场庄严肃穆的上堂斋于焉展开。殊不知，他老人家于1995年溘然长逝。此番的10周年庆，竟是他最后一次踏上加拿大的土地。上人入涅槃后，弟子们很快地收拾起哀戚，齐报师恩于万矣。金佛圣寺亦复如是，他一如往昔地矗立在中国城巴士站的一角，坚毅地扛起如来家业。说起来，这是老和尚的慈悲，他总把道场建立在华人区巴士站附近，以方便老人家们一下了车便有礼佛诵经的地方。这些一辈子护持庙上的老人家，不管刮风下雪，只要寺里有活动，就有他们身影的精神，足为上人的教诲下上最好的注脚。随着时间的流转，中国城内流浪汉、贩毒者日益猖獗，惊心动魄的警车汽笛声伴随着救护车的呼啸声，时而可闻。金佛圣寺门里门外俨然形成2个不同的世界。就在这当口，东区11街的教堂因经济窘迫出让，在寺众一致决议下，于2000年开始搬迁。 整修后的寺院简朴敞亮，可供100余人共修的殿堂。而旧与新知依旧在诵念地藏经的传统中，
24则束缚受生，25则诸神赞叹，26则诵念，
卖力地传唱着100千年来孝顺的事迹。历史的长河慢慢地流淌着，斑驳的墙壁时而如泣如诉了起来。2011年，扩建工程动土开工了。历时2年余的努力，
See the images apart from this halo, putting it together. This is an amazing image. Huge. Vairochana is sitting on his lotus.
因佛圣寺焕然一新。拔地而起的万佛墙，演绎了过往，不可讳言的也将记载未来。巍巍的毗卢遮那佛，闭目凝神地守护着人世间的悲心。他微扬的嘴角，仿佛在向人们诉说：梦里明明有6趣，醒来空空无大千。岁月的脚步不断的推移，每逢岁末，青春的钟声后显了大地。这时庙上点灯， 抄经，祈福的人潮带来一片祥和、热闹的气氛。金佛圣寺今年已届而立了，它犹如壮年般，充满无限活力和愿景。如果说有愿就有缘的话，记得上人的遗愿之一，便是希望有法种的地方就有学校，教导人八德，就有老人院，使老者安置。金佛圣寺在时代的长河里，除了弘法利生外，也希望能将上人的遗愿落实于万矣。
There you go. Yay. Not too shabby, huh? For homemade. All right. So there's our gold Buddha. And next year, Berkeley Monastery is coming up to our 20th year. How about that? Yeah, 1995. And nobody has said a word about us doing any kind of, haven't even thought about a commemoration. What should we do? Cook. That's what we should do. Put on a banquet, right? We should definitely feed people. That's what we do best, it seems. So, yeah, no, I haven't even thought about it once. Don't even know what to do. Okay, so seeds planted, harvested. Please have a week full of blessings and wisdom. Contemplate lifting the hood on your life and finding out how that engine's turning. We'll see you here next week. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Namo Da Phang